Another dog water performance for Miami as they basically threw the game away to Milwaukee last night. We're going to dive into the recap of that game and more in this Wednesday's episode of your Heat Latest on FanArc. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Sam Shapiro. If you haven't subscribed to our channel yet already, we're chasing 600 subs. So if you want to help me in that mission and get to 600 subscribers here on the channel, be sure to click that subscribe button. And of course, also don't forget to like this video. Well, pretty dog water performance, I would say, from Miami, at least to close out last night's matchup against the Milwaukee Bucks. I believe going through the last 6.5 minutes of the fourth quarter, completely scoreless, and ultimately handing the game away to the Bucks as they fell on the road to Milwaukee 117 to 128. And I wouldn't say that this was overall a terrible game for Miami, but closing out this game was another raunchy thing to watch, to be completely honest with you. To start off, Milwaukee shot the ball better than Miami from the floor overall and from beyond the arc, 49% compared to Miami's 42% from the floor, and then 41% from three in comparison to Miami's 33% from three, which unfortunately isn't even the worst we've seen from them this regular season in terms of outside scoring ability. Miami not looking hot from beyond the arc, ironically, but Milwaukee also turning the ball over less. 10 turnovers to Miami, 16. Milwaukee actually taking care of the ball better than Miami overall in this performance, at least in the turnover department. And this is all without Giannis Antetokounmpo. The fact that this game was even close just shows how much of a mediocre team this Miami Heat has been all year. There have been times where they have looked like one of the best teams in the Eastern Conference, a top 3 team in the conference, if you will. They've beaten Detroit. They beat Cleveland in buzzer beater fashion. They've beaten the Knicks. They've beaten the Pistons. They've beaten the Thunder this year. But you can't beat the Milwaukee Bucks without Giannis Antetokounmpo on the road? I mean, I know I was not the only Miami Heat fan scratching their head watching the end of last night's game going, what the fuck? There's no way I was the only Miami Heat fan doing that last night, watching this game. Now, Miami did a really good job containing Cam Thomas, or at least that part of the three-headed dragon for Milwaukee. Thomas only having 6 points on 2 of 10 shooting in his usual 20 minutes per play, at least that we've seen out of him since he's joined the Bucks. But Kevin Porter Jr. shot the lights out. 32 points on 11 of 20 shooting. And only two of those shots were threes. It's not like he had a outside scoring onslaught against Miami. That paired up with Ryan Rollins' 21 points on 9 of 16 from the field. I mean, when you look at it like that, at least the three-headed dragon in Porter, Rollins, and Cam Thomas combined for 57, I believe, of Milwaukee's 128 points. So definitely close to half of that figure. And Miami, again, didn't really do a good job closing in that regard. Now, Tyler Hero, I feel like, struggled off the bench a little bit in this game. 14 points, 5 of 17 shooting, 6 assists, which is not bad, but it's not great, I would say. Definitely helped that Norman Powell at least had a solid scoring night, but he didn't really shoot the ball that efficiently either. 26 points on 6 of 14 shooting. Not great efficiency overall, but at least put up 26 points. That's to go along with Wiggins' 16, Larson's 10, Adebayo's 18 and 9. And then obviously Davion Mitchell, I feel like, doesn't really contribute a whole lot in the scoring department, but did pack on 8 points and 8 assists in this loss. Kel'el Ware, shy of a double-double in this matchup, but at least had 14 points to go along with 8 rebounds. Jaquez only having 9 points. So the scoring, I feel like, was still distributed somewhat well, but the kicker for me in this game, Miami could not close this game. And it kind of dips into the next thing I want to talk about. This Miami team has struggled to close out, I feel, easy games throughout the entirety of this season. I mean, there were times against Chicago this year where Miami let it get a little bit too close for comfort. Just recently, blowing a 20-point lead to Boston. Granted, Boston is actually a talented team, but you had that game in the bag, and you blew that one all in the fourth quarter. Then the previous matchup against Boston, Miami went and did the same thing again. To see this game tied at 112 with exactly 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter and Miami basically hand over 10 points to this Bucks team is fucking ridiculous. It's just absolutely ridiculous. And I don't know what Miami needs to do because we kind of saw something similar. Well, I wouldn't say it was similar to what this performance was against the Bucks, but we saw over the weekend with the game against the Grizzlies, Miami play three really strong, the first three quarters really strong, and then kind of fall off in the fourth quarter. Well, in this game, Miami 29, 29, 35 through the first three quarters respectively, 24 in the fourth. I mean, you only let Milwaukee score 26 in the third. All you've got to do is not let them score 35 plus in the fourth. Well, you went and let the Bucks score 39 in the fourth in this game. So Miami has to do a better job going forward through the rest of this regular season of closing out these games if they want to avoid the play-in. Because if they don't, play-in Warriors, baby, it's going to be another round and another battle for them if they don't clean it up. Just kind of have to wait and see how that all pans out. But right now, it's looking like it's going to be the same mid-basketball team we've been seeing all stinking year. Drop in the comments what you guys think Miami needs to do to clean it up. Before we talk about an interesting subject here regarding, potentially the idea of a superstar coming to Miami in the near future, and we flirted with this idea a little bit here on the channel over the summer because it's definitely not going to happen anytime soon, I believe, but was definitely teased a little bit just because of an exchange between Norman Powell and another NBA All-Star over the course of All-Star Weekend. But before I dive into that, just going to spend this minute here giving a shout out to the sponsor of today's video over at Mars Men. Now I'm 27, and over the last couple of years, I've started feeling just a little bit different. Nothing dramatic. I was still working out, eating pretty clean, but my energy just wasn't what it used to be. My lifts felt different. My focus definitely dipped. It just felt like I was working harder for the results that used to come a little bit easier for me when I was in college. And I remember just thinking, what is going on with my body? Well, then I started learning more about testosterone. Most guys know it drops as you get older. Around 30, it starts declining about 1% a year. But what I didn't know is even if your body is producing testosterone, a lot of it can get locked up by something called SHBG. So it's there, but you can't really use it. It's like having money in your account, but your card keeps just getting declined over and over again. That's why I started taking Mars Men. It's designed to help free up that locked testosterone so your body can actually use what it's already making. No needles, no synthetic stuff, just ingredients that support energy, focus, and strength. For a limited time, our listeners get 50% off for life, plus free shipping and 3 free gifts at mengotomars.com. It's a perfect way to kick off the new year strong. That's mengotomars.com for 50% off and three free gifts at checkout. After your purchase, they will ask you where you heard about them. Please support our show and tell them our show sent you. If you've been feeling that subtle drop off too, it might be worth looking into Mars Men. Now, I want to take the second half of this show to talk about Anthony Edwards because he definitely is, I would say, a talented player in the league, but the idea of potentially him playing in Miami at some point in his career came up over the course of All-Star Weekend when Norman Powell and him had a little bit of an exchange with one another. Norman Powell asking Edwards kind of asking Powell Powell asked Edwards what he thought of Miami, and Edwards kind of responded with the idea that it kind of looked like a vibe. So the exact quote Edwards said to Norman Powell, he asked Norman, "Do you like Miami?" Powell obviously responding, saying that, "I love it, XYZ. Then he asked Edwards, "What do you think?" And Edwards said, shit looked like a vibe, end quote. That's exactly what he said. So, him saying it there, he's definitely flirted the idea that it, looks like a vibe, quite literally. Edwards also rehabbed in Miami and worked out in the Heat's facility during the 2025 All-Star break. But again, don't want to say just because of that, that's an indication that Anthony Edwards is down to take his talents to South Beach, at least at this point in time. But what was more interesting was just hearing what Edwards and Spoelstra had to say about one another while playing in the Olympics together. Now, Anthony Edwards saying, quote, at least about Erik Spoelstra, quote, he's been dope, bringing a lot of energy and Heat culture. It's exciting to see. His first day with the Scout, I was like, okay, I see what they mean when they say Heat culture. He came in with a lot of energy, right to the point, so precise with the detail, it's dope. So, I mean, it definitely seems like, at least from those words, Edwards would be open to, well, I mean, he at least was in the Olympics playing under an environment where Coach Spoelstra is bringing what the Miami Heat are all about and what Heat culture really stands for. And then looking at what Spoelstra said about coaching Edwards in the Olympics, he said, quote, yeah, we know who that is. It's not hard to look at Anthony Edwards and not see Dwayne Wade in him. I'm not a guy for comparisons, but the way he moves, the way he competes, the way he electrifies the crowd, yes, that reminds me of number 3. And I have told Anthony that. It's just making me younger again. So to not only see Edwards be interested in the type of culture Coach Spoelstra brings when he is leading a team, but then also Spoelstra comparing him to arguably the best player in the Miami franchise's history, or at least the best shooting guard, I feel like is a little bit more of a fair label to put there. To see that comparison, I mean, the base is laid out. The blueprint is laid out. The foundation, that's the word I was looking for. The foundation for this to eventually happen one day is already set. Will it ever happen? I don't know. But if the opportunity does present itself to Miami, I think it's definitely something they can jump on. So what would a package to acquire Anthony Edwards to land to Miami, taking his talents to South Beach, what would that all look like? Well, I think it would look a lot similar to the scenario we were talking about that Miami was potentially going to have to cough up in exchange for Giannis Antetokounmpo. I think Miami would have to trade Hero and Ware, two youngest stars that Miami can really offer, in addition to Jaquez Jr., along with at least 3 first-round draft picks. Now, you've got to keep in mind, Anthony Edwards, young guy, averaging almost or just under 30 points per game, leading the Minnesota Timberwolves deep in the playoffs, multiple seasons. Definitely would be an instant change to the level of play this Miami team could exhibit with Edwards in the lineup. And when you're looking at that trade too, you've still got Yakuchones, you've still got Davion Mitchell, you've still got Jovic in the mix as well. So it's not like you don't have anything when at least you're, firing up that trade. You've still got Andrew Wiggins in the mix as well. You've still got Norman Powell. I mean, you've got a lot at your disposal you can work with there, even pairing them up with Anthony Edwards in that mix. I mean, Anthony Edwards and Norman Powell to go along with Bam Adebayo would be a really scary team, to say the least, in terms of what that would ultimately look like. In terms of where the first-round picks would come from, would probably be Miami's 2029, 2031, and 2033 first-round picks in that deal as well. But I don't necessarily think that's too much for giving up, or that is too much to give up in exchange for Anthony Edwards. Arguably the best shooting guard in the NBA, unless you'd want to say Cade Cunningham is better, which definitely a fair argument, and it is, I would say, the case. Well, in that case, Anthony Edwards, the second best shooting guard in the NBA, in exchange for 3 quality players and 3 draft assets that you can use in the future. If Edwards is already putting Minnesota in the conversation to potentially find a way to make the finals, I don't see why he wouldn't be able to do the same for this Heat team, assuming that's the trade package that would be mocked up for him. That's going to do it for this Wednesday's episode of your Heat Latest on FanArc. Don't forget to drop a like on this video. And if you haven't already, click that subscribe button. We've got great daily content you don't want to miss all right here, Monday through Friday. Thanks again so much for joining us. I'm Sam Shapiro. You have a great day.